Hey guys, hello everyone. I am going live. I don't know if you can see me. Facebook has changed their settings and everything is quite messy. But yes, I am live. So I'm trying to add Mr. Jorge Saahirah, our guest, but I am not managing. For some reason, we cannot get him into the session. So what I'm going to do is I am going to invite everyone to join us at our live workshop on Egyptian rhythms and musicality happening this Sunday. Okay, so we're gonna host a 2-hour intensive live and recorded workshop, me and Mr. Jorge, whom I cannot bring into this live. I don't know why. And we are going to work on the most important Egyptian rhythms for dancers, why they're important, what is it that dancers need to know about those rhythms, and what is the importance of listening to the rhythm, listening to the melody, and how to interpret, how to use what you're listening. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. I apologize in advance for not being able to bring our guest in, but you know, technology is always changing and it's hard to keep up with everything. I have no idea why we're not able to bring our guest. Mr. Jorge, salamu alaikum, alaikum salam. I hope you're okay. Anyhow, I am going to tell you a little bit about Egyptian rhythms, about my favorite Egyptian rhythms. I am also going to mention the importance of the iqa, the tempo, the heartbeat of the music, which is something that a lot of dancers don't consider. And I am going to invite you guys to share your questions. Okay, so you have the comment section beneath this session. Feel welcome to share your questions, share your feedback, whatever you're curious about around Egyptian rhythms and musicality. Okay, so I'm gonna start by telling you a little bit about my favorite rhythms, and of course this is personal. Okay, favorite rhythms, just like favorite instruments or favorite songs, they're supposed to be personal. Okay, just because I love classical Egyptian music or Sha'abi or Baladi or Saidi or Nubian or whatever, it doesn't mean those are necessarily the best styles, the most interesting. It just means I connect to them for whatever reasons. Okay, so the way we connect to music is personal, and this is in itself very important to pinpoint, to remind dancers that sometimes we search for formulas and we hope a teacher will come with one universal answer to how to use the music and what to do with the music. But the truth is, there is a lot about Egyptian music and Egyptian dance which is personal. So what works for me may not work for you. What triggers me emotionally may not trigger you. It's important to gather the knowledge for sure, and that's what we're going to do this Sunday at our workshop with Mr. Jorge Saahirah. We are going to gather the knowledge around the main rhythms for Egyptian dance, but then you have to find what connects with you. What are the specific rhythms that work the best for you, that serve you at this point, that inspire you, that make you feel good? Okay. Another important point is different rhythms will take you to different places. Okay. I'm not going to go so deep into the different rhythms and the styles they correspond to, because we're going to do that at our workshop. But what I'm going to do is suggest that you check a few Egyptian rhythms like Maksum or Wahda Kibira or Saidi, Falahi, whatever. Just search for a couple different Egyptian rhythms, listen to them with your eyes closed and see how each one of those rhythms is going to take you to completely different places. It's going to make you feel different things. It's going to put you in a different mood. And that connection, that intuitive, instinctive connection with each rhythm is absolutely essential. And there is no book to teach you how to do that. There is no one who should teach you or tell you, when you listen to Falahi, this is how you're going to feel. Or when you listen to Baladi, or when you listen to Masmoudi, this is how you're supposed to feel. Because knowledge is knowledge, feeling is feeling, and feeling is personal, okay? Now, it is absolutely essential that dancers know Egyptian rhythms because they are the skeleton of the music, okay? This is the way I see it and the way I've always approached it. Melody is flesh, it's the blood, it's the muscles, but the rhythms and the ika, the tempo, the heartbeat of a specific musical piece, that's the skeleton. If we're not able to identify, understand, feel the skeleton of the music, we are not going to be able to identify and use the muscles, the blood, everything else that comes along eventually with that piece of music. Obviously, we can talk about tabla solos, and that's pure percussion. You only have percussion, you only have tempo and different rhythms played by different percussion instruments. But usually speaking, Oriental dancers use music that combines rhythm, melody, eventually lyrics as well. So those are different elements to deal with. And if you don't know what to do with the skeleton, with the bone of the music, you will get completely lost in the melody and way more lost with lyrics if there are lyrics. So surprisingly, this seems to be kind of a niche study. I don't know how that's possible. I think this is basic study for every Oriental dancer, but it seems to be like a niche study. It shouldn't be. It should be basic knowledge for every Oriental dancer. And no, I'm not talking about necessarily learning how to play the darbuka or becoming a musician or knowing by heart all the dooms, all the texts. Yani, not necessarily, but it is important to identify the main rhythms. Know that they're often played with variations and alterations. That's also important. So you're not always searching for a perfect rendition of the rhythm that you have learned in a classroom, because that's not always what's gonna happen. And it is important to remember, as I said initially, that you may gather all the knowledge around the rhythms, but in the end you have to connect with them on a personal level, okay, and see how this particular universe of a specific rhythm is inspiring you. What is it suggesting? Where is it taking you emotionally, mentally, physically? Okay, and that is a ride that every dancer must do by her or himself. All right. Now, I would like to ask you if you have a favorite rhythm, and if you do, share that favorite rhythm in the comments with me, because I'm gonna share my favorite rhythms right now. And tell me why it's your favorite rhythm. Why it's your favorite Egyptian rhythm. Okay, I'm curious. So I love every rhythm. I'm gonna be very honest. I do think that every single rhythm has a purpose in Egyptian music and consequently in Egyptian dance. I do think that every single rhythm will give me specific gifts. It will provide a specific experience. Sometimes I'm more in the mood for Falahi, fast, dynamic, a little bit more mechanic. And sometimes I'm more in the mood for a slow Maksum, easygoing, fun, light. And sometimes I really want a Masmoudi Kibir, giving me space to feel, to explore, to imagine, to think, to fly. It's really depending on the moment and what I'm searching for and what I need in that specific moment, which also tells us a lot about the therapeutic healing properties of rhythms, okay? And this is also something that in Egyptian dance, I don't think we approach enough because we're so focused on choreographies, you know, and we're so focused on moving. And the truth is, a lot of teachers also don't know how to teach the healing properties of rhythms. They don't know there are healing properties in the rhythms, but there are. So it is not a coincidence that the Zar rhythm is used in Zar sessions. It is not a coincidence that Saidi is used in a Saidi setting, like the Tartib, for instance. It is not a coincidence that Masmoudi Kibir or the Samait Il, for instance, that we use in the Moshahat, are associated with Tarab. It's because the rhythms have a specific effect on the brain of the dancer, on the brain of the listener, of course, but then on the brain of the dancer. And that specific effect can be therapeutic. Okay, we're gonna go into this a little bit more in our workshop this Sunday, the 27th. And what I'm going to do is, once I close the live session, I am going to share the link to the workshop. So if you haven't joined us yet, you still can join me and Mr. George Sawet, who was supposed to be here with me right now, sharing this free live session. He's going to be with me on Sunday at our live and recorded workshop. Even if you cannot join us live, the recorded workshop will be available to all the registered participants. So you will have to subscribe and make sure that you either join us live or you check the replay. And what we're going to do then is a deep dive into the structure of the rhythms, why they matter, how we dancers should use them, and of course I am going to dance to the rhythms with you guys. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take advantage of the presence of Mr. George. He's gonna play live for us. We're gonna do a little bit of Maksum, a combo that I have for Maksum. And then I have prepared a separate dance combo with Masmoudi Kibir, which is, by the way, one of my favorite rhythms. But before I tell you more about my favorite rhythms, let me check what you guys are sharing with us. Hi, Linen. Hi, Maria. I can see some beautiful faces here. Maria says, Saidi makes me feel playful. There you go. So if it makes you feel playful, Saidi, that's the right mood, that's the right feeling for you, okay? And sometimes, as I was mentioning, I think we dancers, we doubt ourselves too much, especially if you're not a native to the culture. You doubt yourself, you doubt your instinct. Don't doubt it, okay? What I usually tell my students is educate yourself and then trust your instinct, because education is essential, but instinct is also essential, and one thing doesn't replace the other, okay? Wahda Kibira says Katarina. Yeah, Wahda Kibira is definitely one of my favorites as well. Wahda Kibira kind of gives you space, right? It gives you a swing, a space, a kind of a rocking effect, right? It does take you to very specific places. Maria says healing properties. Okay, this is new to me. Yeah, it's new to a lot of dancers because, again, we're so hyper focused on productivity and choreographies and memorization and technique, and there is not enough space to go into the healing properties of rhythms and dance in general, which is a shame, because Egyptian dance and rhythm specifically have the power to change us from within for good, for better, okay? And part of it has to do with the effect it has on the brain, the music, okay? The different makamat, the melodic modes, and the different rhythms, they do have a specific effect on the brain, okay? I don't know if you saw it, guys. There is a very cool episode of the Oriental Café podcast. I featured Maya Youssef. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. Yes, Maya Youssef. She's a brilliant qanun player, musician and teacher who's teaching makamet to Oriental dancers. And in this episode, we speak a little bit about the effects of the music on the brain. And what I tell my guest is Arabic music is very invasive and manipulative, because it gets into your system and it manages everything within. It seduces you, it heals you, it changes you, it takes you to unexpected places. I would highly suggest that you check that episode alongside the episode with Mr. Jorge Sawa in the first season of the podcast as well, because they are episodes particularly focused on music and musicality and the importance of listening for dancers, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, I'm also gonna share that in the comments later on when we close the session, okay? What else? Frederic, hi Frederic, nice to see you here. Frederic says, Mahmoud Saahirah for baladi feeling, yes. I love the Mahmoud Saahirah and the Mahmoud Kibir, okay? So it's a different version of the Mahmoud, slower, with more space. And by being slower, it becomes necessarily something else, a completely different experience. I also love the Maksum because it's so accessible and so flexible, adaptable. You can do a lot of stuff with Maksum. And it's one of the first rhythms you teach to dancers because it's, at least to the Western ear, it's one of the easiest rhythms to capture, to digest, okay? I love Saidi, of course, Ashan Ana Saidaya, because I am Min al-Said. I love everything Saidi. I love the Saidi rhythm. I love the Saidi music, the Saidi feeling, the Saidi folklore, of course. I love Saidi people. In Egypt, in the big cities of Cairo and Alexandria, when someone is very stubborn and when the word of honor is important for them, when they have strong character, you know, people say, this person is Saidi, and sometimes they mean it like stupid, not very clever, but what they really mean is this person does not change with the wind. They say it's white, it's because it's white. They say it's black, it's because it's black. They have very strong and very steady character. Okay, so we call them Saidi. That has to do with the rhythm as well. It's very vertical. It's a vertical, strong, masculine, assertive rhythm. I love that because I am like that. See? So this is a personal thing. It's a personal relationship. I don't love Saidi necessarily because others love it or because it's nice for dance. I love it because it has to do with me. So what I suggest is that dancers do that exercise, right? Find a personal link between you and the rhythm, you and different rhythms, and how different rhythms speak to you in a very unique personal manner, okay? As opposed to just learning how others do it, okay? And asking teachers, how should I do this? Of course, teachers, if they're professional and if they do know their stuff, they will have a lot of information and technique and musicality to share with you. But let me repeat that. Nothing replaces instinct and personal connection with the music. And that is something that nobody can do for you. You have to do that job. I cannot feel the rhythms in your place. I cannot replace you in that job. Okay, there is a side of listening and interpreting the music which is very personal. And I know that that can be scary for a lot of dancers because we're afraid we will mess up. We're afraid this is not it. We're afraid that we're going to do something which is not necessarily interesting. I don't know. Dancers are afraid. I mean, we're human, okay? And again, if you were not born into Egyptian culture, or if you haven't lived and worked there for a long time, immersed in the culture, I think there is always this aspect of, I'm an outsider, I'm a foreigner, therefore, who am I to trust my gut? Who am I to trust my instinct? I better ask someone who knows. There is a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot of it around this mindset. I'm not afraid because I'm not Egyptian. So maybe it's better to ask someone how to do this, okay? you have to gain confidence. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the episode with Maya Youssef, the episode of the Oriental Café podcast I just recommended. She mentioned something beautiful in that episode that I memorized. She says, Arabic music does not belong to the Arab world. Arabic music is universal, like every other kind of music. And I do think that in Egyptian music and in Egyptian dance, there is a little bit of a nonsensical trend of telling people this is Egyptian, and if you're not Egyptian, you cannot get it. You don't get it. It's like telling people around the world, if you're not from Argentina, you're not going to get Argentinian tango. Don't even try, okay? Because you're not Argentinian. Or it's like telling foreign dancers, don't do classical ballet because classical ballet is European. You're not European, you will never get it. So what the hell are you doing, messing around with something which is not from your culture? It's nonsensical. And nonetheless, in Egyptian dance and music, we kind of accept that mindset, that idea that we have to be Egyptians, otherwise we don't get it. It is nonsensical and it harms the experience of dancers, okay? Because dancers doubt their instinct, their intuition too much, and they shouldn't, okay? So I love Mahmoud Kibir. I love Wahda Kibira as well. I love the Saidi rhythm. I love Maksum because it's accessible and sweet and fun. And it's deceivingly simple. It's deceivingly simple, okay? You can do a lot of sophisticated stuff with that simplicity. And I love Zar. I love the Zar rhythm used in Zar sessions. Why? Because it takes me back to literal Zar sessions in Cairo that I attended during all the years I worked and performed in Egypt. And because it's one of those rhythms that immediately puts you into a tarab predisposition. It throws you into an ecstatic, transcendent, super relaxed and out of this world mood. And I like that. I like the boldness of Zar. It's bold, okay? It doesn't mess around. It doesn't go around with subliminal messages. It's very direct and it goes straight where it hurts. I love that. Absolutely love that. But as you can tell, all of this is personal. All of it is super, super personal. So my second question to you guys is, where exactly lies your biggest difficulty when dealing with rhythms? Okay, this is a personality curiosity. Okay, it's a curiosity. I always like to know how other dancers deal with the music and where they struggle and what they like, just out of curiosity, but also because it helps me to help you. Okay, so I've already mentioned we are going to host the live and recorded workshop with Mr. Jorge Sawad this Sunday on Egyptian rhythms and musicality. Needless to say, we are going to receive questions from dancers, and it's always important to expose what is it that you struggle with, because that inspires a new exercise, a new solution, a new direction that may well solve that problem, and it may well open the path of growth in your dance, okay? So from a perspective of a teacher, what I usually see is not necessarily dancers out of rhythm. That's rare. I gotta say, it's rare, okay? Of course, if you're teaching beginners, naturally, every once in a while you see students out of rhythm, not paying attention to the rhythm, not even listening. It's normal, because we're hyper focused on movement in the beginning, okay? And then the music starts to come into the picture. Usually that's how it goes. But what I see in dancers from all levels, okay, including professionals, is a very static and cliche way of answering the rhythm. What do I mean by this? I don't see a lot of originality in the way dancers are listening and catching, interpreting the rhythms. And for me, as a creative, as an artist, that is a problem, okay? As I usually tell students, I don't believe that dancers are followers of the music. I believe we are co-creators, okay? I am a part of the music. I believe in that. Needless to say, this comes from having worked for a long time with musicians, of course, live musicians in Egypt. And that meant my musicians were following me as much as I was following them. So this idea that I can add to the music, I can be original in the way I receive and give back to the music, it comes from my experience working with live music for such a long time in Egypt, of course. But it also comes from the fact that I do believe a dancer's job is not only to move, it's to listen, to imagine, and to create music within. Okay? We are going to explore this in the workshop. Okay? This is a wide subject. And there are exercises to get you started. So that's what we're going to do on Sunday workshop. But for now, what I would suggest that you do is when you listen to a rhythm, any rhythm, okay? Any Egyptian rhythm, Egyptian, Turkish, whatever you're using, I would suggest that you listen to it and you improvise to it, searching for angles that you're usually not exploring, perhaps dancing the silences between the dooms and the tacks, or instead of starting with the doom, start with the tack, or instead of using every single beat, use just one beat or two. I mean, undress the rhythm between the sounds, the doom, the tack, the ka, the silences, and approach the rhythm from a more original point of view. Even if you're not sure it's going to work, okay, experiment. I think there is a lot of fear around experimentation. Maybe we are in a hurry, okay? We want to get fast solutions, get it done fast, I don't know. There is a space of experimenting with the rhythm that I'm not seeing anymore. Not even with professionals, especially not with professionals. Everyone is playing safe and everyone is dancing the same way, like everyone else. And I wonder, what the hell? Why? Okay. That's everything Egyptian dance is not supposed to be, right? Because Egyptian dance is an individual language. It's the soul of the individual speaking, manifesting itself, interpreting the music in its own way. So I'm not supposed to dance like my neighbor. I'm supposed to appreciate my neighbor and inspire my neighbor and support my neighbor, but I'm not supposed to emulate the exact way they deal with the rhythms and with the music, because they are them and I am myself. I am not them. Okay. Is Zar and Ayub rhythm the same? Yes, usually they're associated with each other, meaning sometimes we're talking about the Zar rhythm and we see Ayub, sometimes we're talking about Ayub and we see Zar. Yes, they're very, very similar, very similar. Music is universal, says Maria. But Katerina, more about that in the workshop, okay? I'm not gonna go deep into specific information about the rhythms because I'm saving that for the workshop. We're going to have Mr. George playing the main Egyptian rhythms for us, breaking them down, and he's going to speak about the difference between Zar and Ayub and another subtle differences between rhythms that are usually confused with each other, okay? Maria says music is universal. Yes, I was a city girl, yet when first I heard Egyptian music, all I remember is that music moves to want to dance, even before I started learning basics of belly dancing in New York. Yeah, music is universal, but for some reason, in Egyptian dance, there is this idea, there is this, oh, we're Egyptian, we know. If you're not Egyptian, you don't know. I don't know where that's coming from because, guys, I lived and worked in Egypt for a long time, okay? Getting paid and well paid to do my job. I was learning Argentinian tango from Egyptians, And I don't remember anyone telling Egyptians to stop doing it because they're not Argentinian. That's ridiculous. I was doing salsa, Latin American dances. There is an incredible movida of Latin American dances in Cairo, and excellent dancers, Egyptian dancers of salsa. I never heard anyone telling Egyptians, you shouldn't be doing that because you're not Latin. What the hell are you doing? Okay, that's ridiculous. But somehow with Egyptian dance, it seems legit. I don't know what's going on. There is a kind of property. If I'm Egyptian, I'm a genius dancer, which is a very big mistake. Not all Egyptians are dancers. The same way not all Egyptians are tabal, yani. They don't know how to play tabla. Not everyone, okay? Just because you were born Egyptian, you were not born with a tabla on your hands. So it is universal. And the more we accept that, and the more we understand that this is an art form for everyone to enjoy and make their own, the more we will grow in the dance. I'm not saying that knowing the dance and the codes of the dance is not important. And if you've been studying with me, you know that's very important. The main reason why I went to Egypt to start my career, it's because I wanted to know the codes of the language, because it is a language, in depth, so that I could do it right, out of respect, out of curiosity, out of self-respect and dignity as an artist. So of course there is a lot to learn. I'm not saying that knowing the culture, knowing the mentality, knowing the posture is not important. It's very important. But it's not the same as telling you, if you're not Egyptian, you will never get it. Okay, there is a huge difference. So I would like to invite you to start approaching rhythms with a more courageous, more self-confident attitude. Okay, basically that's what I'm trying to tell you. All right. So why is it so important for Oriental dancers to know Egyptian rhythms and to have a notion of Ika, tempo, and those different rhythms that may or may not come into a musical piece? I've already mentioned this is the skeleton of the music, okay? It's the bone of the music. And melody and lyrics, if there are lyrics, are the flesh and the blood, okay, of the body. So if you want to understand the music and if you want to interpret it, you have to understand all its components. Let's start there. Starting with the pulsation, with the heartbeat. If I am disconnected from the heartbeat of the music, I cannot do it properly. You may be a master technician. You may memorize 1,000 movements and steps and postures. You may be an expert at choreographies. But if you cannot grab, if you cannot identify, understand, feel, and use the rhythm in the music, the percussion in the music, the ka and the rhythms, you're totally out of the ocean. You're totally out of the channel. You are out of the experience of Egyptian dance. Okay? There is no separation between dance and music. So the deeper you know the music, the more mastery you have over the music, the more mastery you have over the dance, over the movement. Because the movement is supposed to come from the music. Okay? It doesn't always come from the music, unfortunately, but it should. Okay? So for me, this is almost ridiculous, okay? When I have to have this conversation and tell you guys, you need to understand the music. It's so obvious and it's so overly obvious, let's call it that way, that I'm always surprised how that catches so many dancers in a shock. Wow, I really need to know about the rhythms and the instruments and what they're saying and what they're doing and how they're talking with each other? Really? Am I not supposed to move? I'm a dancer after all. I should be moving, right? Come on, guys. Of course, I mean, it all goes down to how well you want to do it and how much you want to take from the experience. Of course, you can memorize movements and choreographies and ignore the music. You can. A lot of dancers do that. But I don't think that's the kind of experience you're here for. And I don't think if you really love Egyptian dance, That's what you want for yourself. Believe me, Egyptian dance starts in the music. Okay, and I don't know how difficult or simple this sentence may come to you. That will depend on your experience, how you were taught as well. Okay, that will depend on many things, but I can give you my word of honor. Okay, the word of honor of a Saideya, Saidi, Sit Saideya. That if you want to improve your dance, improve your listening skills. And then add technique, and then add choreographies, and then add whatever you want to add. But take a step back, cool down, stay still, and listen. And learn how to listen better. What is it that I'm listening? What is the rhythm that I'm listening? What is the style behind this rhythm? How is this rhythm composed? How can I play with the dooms, with the tacks, with the silences? What can I do with this structure? What can I do? Even to ask the question, what can I do with this structure? You have to identify the structure, right? Even for you to decide creatively what you want to do with a rhythm, how you want to use it, you have to identify it first. Otherwise, there is nothing to choose from. Okay. And I know that when I say it, it's obvious. I hope it's obvious. But we're all so hyper-focused on just moving around and doing stuff. And we don't cool down and we don't take time to realize, let me repeat this, it all starts in the ears. It all starts in the music. Egyptian dance doesn't start in movement. I have been saying this for many years. Eventually, it will catch up. As everything else catches up, eventually it will catch up. Egyptian dance starts in listening. It starts here, in your ears and in your heart. The movement comes after. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to close this session and I am going to share in the comments below the replay of this live session the link for more information about our workshop happening this Sunday. Let me repeat that when you subscribe, you get access to 2 hours of intensive live and recorded workshop with me and Mr. Jorge Saué around the most well-known and used Egyptian rhythms and musicality. I also offer bonus resources on Egyptian rhythms and musicality to the participants, okay? So once the live workshop has happened, what I do is I make, I and my team, we send all our participants the replay of the workshop, the full recording, okay? And a couple of delicious bonus resources to really get you started on becoming a better listener and consequently a better dancer, okay? Even if you cannot join us live for whatever reason, you can always subscribe and then check the replay. I and Mr. Jorge will answer questions. Even if you share them afterwards, you can always email me. I will forward the questions to Mr. Jorge. I will make sure your questions are answered. We don't leave anyone hanging, anyone behind. That's not my style. And if you've been studying with me, you know that. I like to deliver what I promise and better, okay? So this is a workshop for every lover of Oriental dance. I would argue from beginners to advanced level, because the way I approach the rhythm is different from the way you're used to seeing other teachers approaching rhythm. It's quite different, it's quite daring, and it's gonna challenge you and hopefully inspire you, okay? Thank you for dropping by, Katarina, Frederic, Maria, thank you so much. I am going to see you and dance with you soon, hopefully this Sunday at our workshop, okay? With me and with Mr. Jorge. Until then, stay well and check all information about our workshop and the Oriental Café podcast episodes I mentioned as well in the comments below the replay of this live session. Okay? Have a good one, guys. I will see you soon. Mwah.